letting go of limiting beliefs. I mean, I have a methodology for it. I think there's 6 main areas that we get beliefs, right? And most of them are formed before we're 10 years old. Your belief on money and success, your belief on marriage and relationships, your beliefs on health and wellness, religion and God, right? So we have these categories. And if your mother and your father fight all the time and one was abusive or one cheated on the other, you have a core belief about marriage before you're 8 years old.
My name is Mike Fallat. I own the #1 book creation service for entrepreneurs known as Dream Starters Publishing, and I want to help you bring your story to life in a book so you can use that book to generate leads and attention for your business. Contact me today. Welcome to another episode of $1 Million Stories, where we get to interview authors from all over the world. You know, I love talking to authors because they have the courage to take their thoughts, their stories, their lessons, put it down in a book and share it with the many, ultimately changing their legacy and destiny in the process. And if you're an entrepreneur out there, I highly recommend you write a book because it will change your level of clarity. It will give you more self-awareness, but also give you many opportunities along the way. If you need help with any of that, check out dreamstarterspublishing.com. And let's say you already have a book that's done. You want to use it as a marketing tool. Check out milliondolarbookagency.com. I think I said that a little bit wrong there. milliondolarbookagency.com. And we can help you out. Use the book as a marketing tool. Grow that business of yours. Now, I talk a lot about rebirth, new identities, the hero's journey, transformation in this podcast. And that's why this next book is absolutely perfect for you. The book is called Radical Rebirth. Kill off the old you and create a new life. And we have the author, New York Times bestselling author, Randy Gage. Thanks so much for being here, man.
Hey, great to be on with you guys.
Let's start off with the genesis of this book. You just said that you have 15, all right? That's pretty wild. Not many people even get to one. 87% of people on this planet or in the United States want to write a book. Only 3% ever finish one. So 15 books. What made you want to write 15 books? And if you can give us a quick little background on your journey, where you come from, what got you here, that would be amazing.
Well, in my case, and I bet it's the case for a lot of people watching or listening here, it's not that how did I decide I wanted to write 15 books? It's that I wouldn't know what to do if I wasn't writing a book. I feel like, how would I live my life if I didn't write this book? So I started as a reader, right? As a kid, I loved to read. That's my saving grace. For people who don't know my background, I mean, I was a teenage alcoholic, teenage drug addict. I was in jail for armed robbery at 15 years old.
Wow.
I expelled from high school. I mean, I didn't have a lot of options, but I loved to read. And in those days, what I read was espionage thrillers, The Bourne Identity, Robert Ludlum stuff, Trevanian stuff. And then, so I kind of had in my mind when I grew up, I wanted to be an author. And I thought I was going to write spy novels, and I might at some point. But then when I got going in business, and I was a professional speaker since 91, and everybody in that business, like, you got to write a book, you got to write a book, for all the reasons you talk about in your $1 Million book marketing thing. And so I wrote my first book, which was about network marketing. That was the one you actually emailed me about.
Yeah.
That book. I self-published it. It sold more than 2 million copies all over the world. It's in 20 some different languages. It killed it, right? And I look back at it now and I say, oh my God, what a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
How did I put out that crap? But it was where I was at the time, and the market really needed it. And then as I evolved as a person and my focus changed from how to be a great marketer to how to be a good human, my book started going more towards self-development, personal growth, because I felt like that's really the engine that drives the business success.
Oh, yeah.
And so Radical Rebirth was really the culmination of my methodology, my work. Like, how do you kill off the parts of you that you don't like and become the person you want to be?
I love it. Yeah. And I think that I guess there's an aspect of maybe killing off old parts of you every single day, right? The weak versions, or maybe things that don't fit anymore. And especially if you transform at such a rapid rate, you are letting go just as much as you are becoming more. Is that right?
Letting go is everything there. It's in other books I've written, I would call that the vacuum law of prosperity, meaning, hey, if you're holding out this clenched fist, the universe can't really give you anything. Whereas if you release and you open up your hand, you could receive stuff. A lot of personal growth is about that. That book is really, the Radical Rebirth book is about letting go of limiting beliefs. And I actually, I mean, I have a methodology for it. I think there's 6 main areas that we get beliefs, right? And most of them are formed before we're 10 years old. Your belief on money and success, your belief on marriage and relationships, your beliefs on health and wellness, religion and God, right? So we have these categories. And if your mother and your father fight all the time and one was abusive or one cheated on the other, you have a core belief about marriage before you're 8 years old. Then you grow up and you're 35 years old and you're blowing up your marriage and you're saying, come on, Gage, are you telling me I'm blowing up my marriage at 35 because of some belief that I developed when I'm 7? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Same with health, same with, there's so many bad programming about, religion and God, organized religion, that kind of hijacks the message of love and turns it into limiting beliefs. So that book was, it's all about the science of memetics or memes, right? We hear about memes. You think most people, when you hear a meme, they think it's a slide on Instagram or something, but meme was actually, that term was developed by Sir Richard Dawkins in his book, The Selfish Gene.
Wow.
And a meme stands for a mind virus, which we all get infected with, just like a computer drive gets a virus and it replicates. Mind viruses are the same. If you've got little kids and the Baby Shark theme, right? So somebody's in an elevator, they start humming the Baby Shark. Now it's an earworm. Saying you're humming it later, you infect someone at the office. Just do it as a meme. Yes, you can. Yes, we can is a meme. Where's the beef is a meme. So we're infected with thousands and thousands of viruses every day, mind viruses, particularly today with social media and the internet and 24-hour cable news channels. And we're losing the battle. So that's kind of, that book is about how to recognize the negative programming you have, blow it up, and replace it with beliefs that serve you. And that's very much that process, as you described, of releasing and constant improvement, getting a little better every day.
No, I believe for people to fix themselves, there has to be such a need for it to happen. And that's why I look at ground zero moments as a blessing in disguise. Carl Jung always talked about this, that ground zero moments are actually the thing that you need in order to become who you're meant to be. And you're probably familiar with Carl Jung, the psychiatrist or clinical psychologist.
Yeah, and I think there are smart people who don't have to do that. Unfortunately, I was not one of them.
I was not one of them. Me.
Right? I seem to need those ground floor, you know, no matter, those just drama and trauma and tragedy moments to wake me up and say, hey, you know what? I think I need to rethink my life.
Do you think it's because the equation is just this simple? The pain of change actually has to be less than the pain of staying where they are right now, right? It's
It has to be less than the fear of change.
got it. So
When your fears are greater than your dreams, you do nothing. When your dreams are greater than your fears, you go into action.
now, do you think I mean, you just talked about programming. Most people are born with a program of scarcity, right? I will never have enough. Therefore, I can't donate. I can't invest in a company. I can't give away because I gotta hold on. That's a program, right? Same deal with fears. Oh, you know what? If I quit my job, I can't. I'm afraid of what would happen here, what would happen here. So they just have a natural inclination to stick to that wall, even if the wall is extremely painful. But there are some people like me, probably just like you, where we're like, hey, I'm going to jump out of this airplane and I'm going to build another airplane on the way down. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it because I envision myself flying an airplane. And right now I'm not flying, but I'm going to build one to just fly. So my reward is so much bigger than the fear of crashing and burning. So you think that just comes from our environment, or is it nature over nurture? Is it nurture over nature? What is it? What do you think?
It's totally programming. Other people are programmed with, like, what are the most prevalent memes in the world today? If you ask me, here's what I'll give you. Money is bad. Rich people are evil. It's somehow noble or spiritual to be poor. To be successful in business, you got to be a bad mommy or a bad daddy. And to have a successful company, you've got to exploit and take, disadvantaged people and rape and pillage and plunder the environment. Those are the most prevalent memes in the world.
Right?
And they're the most powerful. And so when you have those on this subconscious level, you say, hey, I'm going to go out. I'm going to be successful. I want to live the dream life. Oh, man, I'm looking at all my friends on Instagram and they're going to Ibiza and Burning Man and they're going all these cool, but they're flying private and they got a new Porsche and I want to live like that. And then you have this programming on your subconscious level. It says, all rich people are assholes. They're all mean and evil and nasty. You don't want to be a rich, mean, nasty asshole. So you better just sabotage yourself right now so
Self-sabotage.
that your family is going to continue to love you and your friends are still going to want to hang out with you and people are going to still think you're cool. And you have no idea you're doing it. I did it for 30 years, the first 30 years of my life. I snatched defeat from the jaws of victory every opportunity that came up. And in my case, talk about Jung's, ground zero or whatever we call it. So at 30-ish, I had tried to start a restaurant. We didn't have enough money. We bootstrapped it, didn't pay the taxes. I ended up, the IRS came and seized the place, auctioned it off. So I had no house, no car, no job, no credit, $55,000 in debt. And that was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me because it got me to look inside instead of outside and say, well, God, I had all these health challenges. I had all these financial setbacks. I've had 11 negative, dysfunctional relationships in a row. Is there one person who was always at the scene of the crime?
There is one common theme to that whole thing. It involves one person. I know that.
So yeah, when I asked that question, well, man, I didn't like the answer to that, right? But that was the answer I had to get. And that's what really got me on the journey of studying prosperity and success. That's what got me on the journey of becoming successful. And then as an author, writing books about how I became successful. So I started with these marketing books and I was trying to like shoehorn in what I thought the self-development stuff was because nobody wanted to buy that. They want to buy, okay, how do you earn $1 million? How do you become a millionaire? How do you become a TikTok influencer with 50 million followers? What's the hack that gets you here or gets you there? And so I was always trying to like sneak the personal growth stuff in the back door. And then I had my first midlife crisis at 40 years old, right on schedule. And I was like, if I have to write another book about candidates and getting their phone number, I'd rather stick a fork in my eye. So I retired at 40. I said, and you have a slide you use with the Viper. I was a Viper guy.
Oh, come on. I like you already then.
I had 9 different Vipers. So I had Vipers and Aston Martins and Bentley Continental and I asked everything. I mean, I've had millions of dollars worth of metal, right? And I said, I'm just going to race my Vipers, play softball, and drink out of a coconut and be retired. And I did that for 9 months. And I was going crazy. And then I had lunch with a very dear friend, and he told me his name was Bill Gove. He was the first president of the National Speakers Association. And he told me, Randy, you're the greatest speaker in the world. And I know because I used to be him. And you have to get back on the platform. And I mean, this guy was like my grandfather to me. I revered him. And so I still get chills in my neck when I share that story. So I'm like, well, I've been discontent and I kind of don't know what to do. But, if I go back on the platform, I don't want to just talk about that marketing shit. I want to talk about the stuff that really matters. It's like, so do that. I'm like, well, yeah, why don't I do that? And so I came back into got back speaking again and started writing books again. And, but I did it about the stuff that lights me up. And I hope everybody watching, listening, you do the same thing. Like Naval, when we talk about reading, right? Trying to get kids to read. If we could, it's like, I was flying home from Vegas 2 days ago. I had an event there this weekend, right? And there was a girl sitting at row 2. Her parents were both sitting in front of me, and then they had 2 daughters, and they were in seats 2C and D, right? And the girl had this book, like a 3-inch thick book. She was like 9, 10 years old. And it jarred me, and I'm like, my God, there's a kid holding a book instead of a tablet. That's amazing. Now that I'm just noticing this, like, when is the last time I saw a kid on a plane that the parents didn't instantly give them a tablet or a phone to keep them occupied for the 4.5 hours from Vegas to Miami, right? It's all you see. That's the new babysitter. Give them a tablet, give them a phone, get them in front of a TV. And I thought, wow, that's so cool, that girl. And like, if you get kids to read, it's so good for them. And then they can later become writers, right? Whether we talk about reading or writing, they both do the same thing, is they teach you how to think. They teach you how to think rationally, logically, how to articulate something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Naval likes to say, with kids, just read what you love, even if it's comic books, until you develop a love of reading. And then once you develop a love of reading, it'll go from there. And I think it's for all your authors and want to be authors on here, the same thing, find the stuff that really lights you up and write about that.
Yep.
Because that's going to take you the direction you really want to go.
Yeah, I think that, they always say the great teachers show you where to look, but not what to see. And if you start looking around at all the books that interest you, right, just read them and then come to your own conclusions. And then once you have all these thoughts going through your head of like who you are, where you're going, what the world is all made up of, then if you articulate them down on a piece of paper, that's whenever it becomes very evident of maybe who you want to become, this new life you want to build. And I think this clarity that comes from it is even maybe 100 times more valuable than maybe the money that comes from the speaking gigs and the courses. It's the transformation of the soul, of the identity. So like this clarity, once you have that, then the byproduct is the speaking gigs, the podcast interviews. People see that you are a man or a woman with vision and with certainty. And when you have certainty, it's almost like the world gets out of your way to an extent. It's pretty wild. And I think that right there is a reason why you should write a book out there. Anybody listening, he just said it. It's does something to the soul, for the soul, but it also does something for your future, or like, oh, the more I write, the more curious I am. You turn your curiosity into a superpower. I write it, and then I can formulate it on a podcast in front of people with my clients, and it becomes something that's evergreen. A book never goes away as long as Amazon's around.
Yeah, it's the great thing is books never go away. The terrible thing is books never go away. So we were talking before we went live, and he said, oh, you got this book, why you're dumb, sick, and broke, and how to get smart, healthy, and rich. That would be a cool one to talk about. And I told Mike, no, I don't want to talk about that book. It's terrible. Because so for you guys watching, I've written 15 books. I have more than 5 million copies in print, with almost 2 million of them bootleg editions that I never made a penny on. But I'm huge in Russia, Ukraine, Malaysia, Singapore, places where there's no copyright laws, where I'll go do a seminar and the pirates will be on the sidewalk in front of the venue with the counterfeit books. And I'll be signing those counterfeit books later. And like, it is what and I'm happy to sign them, because I'm like, that's why I'm selling out opera houses, is because they read a counterfeit copy of the book. Now they're paying money to come and see me. So you know what? It's all a blessing. It's all good. It is what it is. But so I have 15 books. 2 of them are New York Times bestsellers. I have one book that sold more than 2 million copies. I have one book that sold more than 1 million copies. And neither one of them were the New York Times bestsellers.
Wow.
So there's a lesson there for that, right? Because the first network marketing book, that's not on any network and New York Times list. They're not going to list that. But I had companies that buy 10,000 at a time, 20,000 at a time. I have leaders who buy 1,000 at a time. I actually have my, latest book. It's called The ABCs of MLM. My gut tells me this will be the fastest book to 1 million sold of all my books. Because the first one took like 7 years, 8 years before it reached 1 million status. Making the First Circle Work was another book just for people in direct selling, network marketing, Pampered Chef, Tupperware, Avon, Herbalife, New Skin, companies like that. So you get groups and leaders, and they're like, wow, we want everyone in the team to do that. And so it creates a lot of sales. And this book is the same market. And I feel it's my best written book yet, even though it's only like 76 pages. It's like each page is a paragraph. I hope your readers know who Stephen Pressfield is. Stephen is,
I don't think they do.
oh my goodness. So Stephen wrote a book called The War of Art.
Oh, of course. Okay. I know the title of the book. I didn't know the author's name. Of course.
So that is a must. Every book I write, the first thing I do before I start the book is I reread The War of Art. And basically he divides it into 3 books, book 1, book 2, book 3. So I just took that exact model, and that's what I did for this new book. And of course, I thanked Stephen in the thing and sent him a copy. And we've become good friends over the years because he'd done some great testimonials for a couple of my earlier books. And but so I have 15 books, and I would say 9 of them are terrible, and 5 or 6 are brilliant, because it took me 9 books to learn how to write. Even though those books sold well and they were commercial. Every book I've written is a bestseller, right? I don't mean an Amazon bestseller because I was #1 on poodle grooming, gay, bisexual.
I was in that category. I won that one. Don't not,
Okay, on Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 11:15 a.m. The definition of the industry would be if a book sells at least 20,000 units, it's a bestseller, right? So all my books have been bestsellers, and they've all had commercial success, and I've self-printed my own books, and I've been published by the biggest publisher in the world in New York, Penguin, Random House, I've done all of that in between. And along the way, I learned I had some books that were really successful, and I hadn't honed my craft of being a writer as much. So that's why I kind of joke and say, well, it's a terrible thing that books never go away. It's like people will throw away videos, discs, CDs, DVDs, VHS. They never throw away books.
nope.
I don't know why. So that's a blessing and it's a curse. But for you guys watching and listening, just write the fucking book. Just write it. Because if you have that message and you believe that, you know what? And it may not be great. And even if I write all my books now, I write them for myself. I write them to figure out what I'm thinking. Because as a speaker and a writer, and I do both, right, at a high level. I'm in the Speaker Hall of Fame. I've spoken to more than 2 million people over 50 some different countries. And I know I can do a keynote speech and crush it and get standing ovation for 10 minutes and then get in the elevator when I'm going back to my hotel room and say, oh my God, I forgot that important. I said I was going to give them the 3-step process for this, and I forgot to give them the 3rd step. And I didn't notice it when I spoke it. They probably didn't notice it, most of them. They loved the speech, but there's holes in it that you don't see until afterward. When you write a book, those holes jump out at you in the editing process, and it forces you to say, okay, wait a minute. No, I was leading the reader in this progression. They're supposed to get to this payoff, but I left out part of the process, and they don't get the payoff. So let me go back and start rewriting, do the rewriting thing. And that's what books force you to do, is to be a critical thinker, to prosecute your case, to defend your logic, or to blow up your logic and realize, okay, no, this is taking me to a place where I didn't think it was going to take me. But by writing it out, it forces you to do that.
God, I can't agree anymore. That's amazing. Yeah, that's exactly how I look at it. And your book, you talk about this new identity and this new life. To give you a little glimpse of how I look at it is, all right, whenever I failed miserably, I started to identify how I wanted to dress, what I wanted to drive, how I wanted to feel. All the weaknesses that were rising to the surface, they needed to be gone. And my new identity was a person who looked like this, talked like this, and this is what they did from day to day, right? So it got me this picture. The dark moments gave me a picture of the life that I wanted, and I realized that I wasn't living anything close to that. So this new vision is really what was the magnet. Okay, I need to do this in order to get that. I need to become this person. I need to dress this way. And I'm probably going to lose a lot of friends and family along the way because I have to change as a person. And I think a lot of people are not willing to do that. But it had to start with that vision. Then what I also did was I started documenting my journey. I would get on camera. I would make posts day in and day out. So I started to really evaluate, am I talking better? Am I a little bit more articulate? Is my camera footage a little bit more professional? Like, I started to see the journey visually, and then it made me, make adjustments. Some of it's like, oh, that sucks. Oh my God, I really look like that? Holy smokes, I'm in bad shape here. So documenting is just as important as knowing where you're going. Do you agree with that? And is there anything you can add to that?
I agree with that. The process or the methodology that works for that is what I wrote in the Radical Rebirth book, because I believe what you're doing subconsciously is you're reverse engineering the process.
Bingo.
You're looking at where you want to be and saying, okay, how do I get there? Which works amazing. That's kind of because I believe it's all about the program, right? So you're growing up and you want something and your mom says, what do you think? Money grows on trees? You know, we're not rich people. We don't have money. So you get this belief, okay, in the book, it would blow people's mind. I don't even think I have a copy of the English version left. I think I took the last one too. Maybe, let me see. This might be, oh no, this is the English version. So I took it to Vegas. I thought it was my last one. Obviously, it was my second to last one. But this will be a funny thing for people to really get. I was talking about memes and mind viruses. And like the first big superhero movie was the first Spider-Man. That's the one that really created all the
2001, I think. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, all the tentpole franchises for Marvel and DC and stuff. And of course, in the movie, Peter Parker, he wants something, and his uncle, who's raising him, says, "We may not be rich, but at least we're honest." Well, what does that mean? Let's translate that into English. It means, oh, rich people are criminals and crooks and con artists and stealers, and poor people are honest and noble and worthy. That's programming. And that's a mind virus, right? There's a bunch of that's a memeplex. It's what we call integrated memes, creating a complex of all the money's bad, rich people are evil, it's spiritual to be poor. And the more emotional memes are, the more they resonate with you. Like, why did Titanic become the biggest selling grossing movie of all time? People were emotional. They were crying. It was a love story. Of course, in reality, Titanic was the most evil movie ever made because it was filled with that programming about money and rich people. And
yeah.
remember the rich guy stealing a baby to get in the lifeboats, and the rich people are rowing off in the sunset, and the poor people are chained up down in fourth class cabin dying. And that was the highest grossing movie of all time because it pandered to your programming.
Wow.
And it stayed the highest programming movie of all time, highest grossing, until same director, Cameron. Avatar. What's the premise of Avatar? The evil, greedy, mean corporation who's, dispelling these people, basically genocide because they want to get the resources of the planet. And even our hero is in a wheelchair, and we learn that if he does his job, they'll give him the money and he could walk again. So he's, literally the hero is paralyzed because he's not rich. And the rich people are forcing him to do evil things to give him the money so he could learn to walk again, right? Level after level after level. And so I used the Peter Parker example because his uncle was raising him, his aunt and uncle. I say, why is that? Well, because he's an orphan. Well, what do we know about memes? We know that the more emotional they are, the more powerful, the more they disseminate. And what's more emotional than an orphan? Some protagonist in a movie who's, doesn't have their mommy or daddy. So in the book, I break down all the movies, the TV shows, the operas, the blogs, the everything. And so here's the real programming. So just for fun, it'll just take a minute. These are the orphans in popular literature. Tarzan, Snow White, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, James Bond, Captain America, Heidi, the Boxcar Children, Mowgli from Jungle Book, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, the Pied Piper, Little Orphan Annie, Hawkeye, David Copperfield, Kung Fu Panda, Poison Ivy, Batman, Robin, Laura Croft, Finn, Han, Anakin, Luke, Leia, Rey, all the Skywalkers, all the Star Wars, the Mandalorian, Worf from Star Trek, Michael Burnham, Star Trek Discovery, Cinderella, The Fly, Frodo Baggins, Superman, Supergirl, Firefly, Harry Potter, Black Manta, Daredevil, Green Hornet, Oliver Twist, Professor X, Wolverine, Magneto, Cyclops, John Wick, Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, pretty much anyone with the surname of Stark. And then, of course, we have all the new ones in House of the Dragon who are getting orphaned every episode, right? And you say, how does that happen? Is this some secret conspiracy that, all these playwrights and movie writers and TV show writers are comic book are creating all these orphans? No, they just have the same mind viruses that everyone else does. So if you grew up, if you're a TV, you want to be a TV show writer, you want to write a hit show like the one you loved when you were a kid. If you want to do movie screenplays, you want to write the epic movie that you loved as a kid. James Cameron isn't an evil person. I think he's really a brilliant director, a cool guy, done some amazing work. The next Alien's coming out in a month from now, and that's based on his first one, Alien, which, of course, what's the theme? The guy who brings back the alien that's going to kill everybody because the company is going to make money. So he lies to everybody about bringing it back, right? I can always show you, once you understand this, you're like, I can never enjoy another book or movie or TV show again
It jumps out at you. Yeah.
It jumps out at you. There's basically, that's what blows people's mind when they read the Radical Rebirth book. They're like, oh my God. I can take you I'm an old guy, right? I grew up with Beverly Hillbillies and, what's the programming of the Beverly Hillbillies, right?
Yeah. The poor people coming to the rich world,
Yeah.
that type of, yeah.
Gilligan's Island. What's the programming? I can take you forward to MASH, Hawkeye and Pierce in the tent, the good guys. There was always a rich guy in the tent. In Gilligan's Island, it was Thurston Howell III. They always have name. In MASH, it was Charles Winchester.
And they were never really the good people, right? They were never
rich people are always the assholes.
Yeah.
So then I can go to Dallas and Dynasty and Melrose Place, and then I can take you up to today, The Good Doctor, Chicago Med, pick your Succession, Game of Thrones, House of Dragons. You're going to say, oh my God, it's a conspiracy. No, it's just people are programmed these. And for you, all you authors out there, pay attention to this. There's lessons for you, right? We know these memes. Some of these are like the hero's journey, right? This is a meme. We know we can trace that back to Joseph Campbell and, mythology from a couple thousand years ago. And we can see it in Puccini operas from a couple hundred years ago. And we can see it in Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and everything today, Batman, Superman, we could just see these themes like unrequited love. That's what worked for Titanic. So we had Rose, who's in this rich family, who's out of money, right? And they're saying, Rose, you got to marry this rich guy. She's like, I don't want to marry the rich guy. He's an asshole. Rosie, we need the money. You got to suck this up for the family. So we have the scene in the first class cabin, and all the rich people are sifting brandy and smoking cigars, and Rose is ready to blow her fucking brains out because these boring rich people. I'm assuming you're going to be able to bleep this.
Oh, we're using it. I'm telling you, my audience loves this stuff. Just so you know.
Okay. Rose is like, oh my God, I'm going to have to spend my life with you. And then Leonardo comes along and says, hey, let's go down to third class and let me show you how to party. And we go down
there. We're the good people down there. We're the good ones.
Oh my God, right? It's just level after level after level. And then, of course, it ends and he dies. So it's Romeo and Juliet all over again. That's why women cried that's why men cried every time they watch it. They bought the VHS, they bought the DVD, then they bought the Blu-ray. There's people who paid for that movie 15 times. It was their favorite movie of all time because it pandered to the beliefs they had. So as an author, every one of you, and most of you are probably writing nonfiction. But you still can learn from these lessons, right? Of, hey, like this new book I did with the 3 acts, right? That comes from fiction. Act 1, what do? We put the hero in the tree.
The origin story, right? This is the ordinary world, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's the hero's journey thing, right? So we put the hero, Act 1, we put the hero in the tree. Act 2, we throw rocks at him. And then Act 3, we get him out of the tree. That's every movie, literature, opera, play, fairy tale, for thousands of years. That's the formula, right? So now, so like when I write nonfiction books, I say, hey, how could I use that formula?
Yeah.
Like when I have a book that one of the New York Times bestsellers was, top 10 New York Times. It was New York Times, Wall Street Journal, bestseller, Business Weekly, USA Today, top #1 money book. It blew up, right? But when I sent it to the publisher, it broke all the rules because it didn't follow what they expected a nonfiction book to be. But I looked at a fiction book. In fact, in the thing, I called it a rock opera in 5 parts. So they call me back and say, well, this book, we can't publish it because, it doesn't fit the formula. And I said, that's okay, because it's not a book. It's a rock opera. And they're
Jeez,
like,
it seems like Saving Silverman, or
yeah,
not, Sarah Marshall, or Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I think that's what the movie, a rock opera they did in that movie.
well, so that's why I told them, well, it's not a book, it's a rock opera. And they're like, oh, okay. So I guess we published. It's like I sent in, it had like 60 testimonials, quotes from people that I sent preview copies to. And they're like, wow, all these testimonials are amazing. You got authors and influencers and all these people, they're amazing. How many do you want to use? Like, all of them? Like, well, there's like 60. Yeah. Well, normally we do 8 to 10. That's normal. Like, yeah, but this isn't normal. This is a rock opera, Well, but why would we? I'm like, these are people who have 1 million followers on Twitter. They gave me a testimonial. You want me to cut out their testimonial because you're afraid the book is going to be 3 more pages of your, 180 pages. It's going to be 184 or whatever. It's like I have people who were New York Times bestsellers with 10, Harvey Mackay gave me. So should I cut Harvey Mackay's testimonial out? Stephen Pressfield gave me it. Should I cut out his testimonial? I have bloggers. I have people these are all people of influence. They took the time, they read a golly, and they gave me a great quote. So why wouldn't you want every one of them? And they're like, oh, wow, yeah, we never thought of it that way.
They don't think outside the box. Programming.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, we're going to publish them all. So that's the bonus lesson for you authors watching is, don't be afraid to fight for what you want to happen with the book. You just remember something. Amazon is a warehouse. They don't sell books. They're a book warehouse. Barnes and Noble doesn't sell books. They're a warehouse. Publishers don't sell books. They're printers. So publishers are printers, booksellers are warehouse. If you want your book to sell, you're going to have to be the champion for it. You're going to have to promote it. You're going to have to do the podcast. You're going to have to write the blogs. You're going to have to go on the media. You're going to have to, because otherwise it ain't going to happen.
Oh, so true. Yeah, you expect that the publisher out there is going to really care as much as you. They don't. You have to market the book, and that's why you have to fall in love with it. I think the magic is in the marketing rather than the content itself. Content's got to be good, but man, if you love marketing and speaking about your book, it's going to destroy those who potentially have written a better book, but maybe just don't like talking about it. So, last question I have for you. I mean, it's going to run a little long here because you're a great guest. Just so you know, I don't even have to do anything. You can just float without me even intervening. But this rebirth, what is it about the average person that they struggle with when it comes to clinging to their old life? Is it because it's in alignment with maybe what's that book, Top 5 Regrets of the Dying? People don't regret, or people regret more than anything else on their deathbed what they haven't done, not living a life true to themselves and fearing what other people think too much. Therefore, you go through life, you don't quit that job, you don't start that business, you don't leave that relationship, you don't start that relationship simply because of groupthink mentality. They're afraid of breaking it, the traditions around them. They don't talk about their political views. They don't, whatever it is, they don't talk about God because I don't want to disrupt the relationships I have. So I'm going to cling to my old life because once again, if I lose the respect of the group, go back to caveman days, I'm going to be ostracized. I'm going to be left out in the open, and therefore I'm vulnerable. So is that it? Is it just that simple?
Well, my answer would parallel that. It's kind of that simple, but it's the bigger issue. If I have to distill it down, what's the core foundational cause? It's worthiness issues. It's low self-esteem.
Wow.
It's low self-worth because of the programming. Like I say, and again, I don't want to offend anybody watching. Organized religion is one of the worst purveyors of negative limiting belief in the world. And, I did a sabbatical. I took 2 years. I shut down my blog, my social media, stopped doing speeches. I just took 2 years and I traveled the world and I worked on myself. And during that time, I studied all of the world's major organized religions. And I looked at the Buddhist Eightfold Path and the Hindu doctrine of karma and the Christian original sin and the Jewish covenant and Islam and all of those. And I'm like, man, the message just got hijacked. If you're taught in your Sunday school by the nuns that you were born a sorry sinner when you're 5 years old, what is the chance you're going to grow up and let yourself become prosperous? They already told you, you don't get the good shit here on earth. You only get that in paradise. If you prostrate yourself and genuflect and beg forgiveness and seek penance for your whole life, then you're going to get the good stuff after you die. And we can look at reincarnation. We can look at people who believe, the doctrine of karma. And if you're a Buddhist and you believe you have to be incarnated 189 lifetimes to reach your peak, but you're currently at lifetime number 137, what's the chance you're going to allow yourself to be healthy, happy, and prosperous? If you believe you were reincarnated this lifetime to pay penance because you were a camel thief in your last lifetime, what's the chance you're going to allow yourself to be happy? If you were taught you were born a sorry sinner, what's the chance you're going to think you deserve to be healthy, happy, and prosperous? So that's those core foundational beliefs. And then it leads to things you just talked about are the symptoms that happen from the core.
So you not being enough internally, it's the automatic response or autopilot feeling that you're not enough. That's it.
I don't deserve this. Man, when they find out, this is what happened to me, and you don't know it because it's all subconscious. Here I was for the first 30 years, because I grew up poor, right? I had a single mom who raised 3 kids by herself, knocking on doors, selling Avon, right? So we were poor and we knew it. It's like you see these people on TV and they're like, oh, we were poor, but we didn't know it. Fuck you. You were poor and you didn't know it. Get the fuck out of here. I was poor, I knew it, and I hated it. So I was doing everything I could to become rich. But I had this subconscious program, which says, Randy, all these rich people are evil, and you don't want to be an evil person. You want to be a good person. You want to be a noble spiritual person. So I would get promoted at a job and I would find a way to self-sabotage it. I would open up a business. I would find a way to self-sabotage. I would find somebody to be in love with and I would sabotage it. I would get healthy, I would sabotage it. And again, it took me all those, 30 years to figure out, wow, this is all coming from worthiness issues. I just don't believe that good things are supposed to happen to people like me. So on a subconscious level, I've been my own worst enemy, blowing up every relationship and business and, whatever. So that's where it starts, is you got to change the programming. When you change the programming, you change the core foundational belief, and you say, wow, rich people can do wonderful things for the world. Wow, the more successful I become, the more I'm going to be able to serve and help others and be a noble spiritual being. So you change the core foundational beliefs, then that changes your vision. When you have a vision, a positive, empowering vision, you change your daily behavior, your habits. Your habits are what makes your life. Your habits determine, do you get up and you do cardio in the morning, like I did at 5:30 this morning, right? But if your vision is, hey, I'm always going to be 112 pounds overweight, taking 15 prescriptions a day, and this is how it is, you won't go to the gym in the morning. So this takes us back to your process that I would describe as reverse engineering, right? We just reverse engineer the thing. We say, okay, if we change the program, we change the belief, we change the belief, we change the vision, we change the vision, we change the behavior, we transform our life.
Solid. Yeah. If you want to make more, you have to become more. Plain and simple. And there's a great quote out there. I don't know word for word, but it's not you're the product of your thoughts. You're the product of your habits, right? Your habits are what predict your future. So yeah, if you always say to yourself, you're not worthy, you're not lucky enough, you're not born that way, or you don't have that skill set, you become a self-fulfilling, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, plain and simple.
100%, 100%.
Excellent, man. We could talk for hours. I think I need to have you back on every time you read a book. But outside of your book, one last question we ask everybody: is there one you recommend? I think you recommended Art of War is
For
the
your
go-to.
people, The War of Art by
Okay,
Stephen
not Sun
Pressfield.
Tzu's Art of War. It's The War of Art. There you go.
Right. Yeah, that's how he came up with the title, to play on that. So, and it's, that's a brilliant example of how to do a book title.
It's great. Is there a website or a social media channel that you're quite active that people can reach out to you and get in touch with you, maybe to have you speak at their event or come on their podcast?
RandyGage.com is kind of the Starfleet command site. Everything springs off from there.
And I know I found you, I know you're quite active on LinkedIn too, I'm pretty sure. So
I'm not quite active on LinkedIn. I keep a page there.
So that's it. Okay. That's how we got your data.
Impersonate me, but I'm on there once a month.
Got it. Well, I agree with many things that you say, and I just love how you look at writing and how important it is. I try to preach that message and share it with as many people as possible. You can articulate it very well. So, guys, get out there, get your life in order, your finances in order, get your thoughts in order by writing a damn book. And you know what? When you write a book, it spills in everything: the clarity, the finances, the opportunities, the identity, the career, everything all flows to, I think, the importance of writing a book. So, Randy Gage, thank you so much for coming on, talking about hero's journey and showing us that Titanic is the most evil movie ever made. I like that. That's amazing. I never heard anybody say that, but I'm going to use that because holy shit, even when I watched it, I know that that's in the programming throughout schools and education system, but damn, you're right. The most popular movies have that theme. Pretty wild. So thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. The main book that you want people to pick up, though, Radical Rebirth. Is that right? The main one.
If you want to, okay, actually, I'll give 2 books. For your tribe, there's 2 books be good for you. Okay. Radical Rebirth, just for the personal transformation. And then I have another book called Mad Genius. And
I
that
saw that.
is delightful for somebody who wants to write a book. Any, you know, a musician, a sculptor, a painter, an author, any other kind of writer, Mad Genius will help you really tap into the genius that is inherent inside you.
And you have the phrase "risky is the new safe" is one of your other book titles. God, I love these. And Mad Genius, very clever. I don't know if your publisher at that point was mad at you or they created that cover with the upside down mad, but looks really good. You know what you're doing
What
when
you
it
know what
comes
I
to
do?
marketing.
You know what I do? I go to, that's not all books, like Risky is the New Safe. John Wiley and Son put that out, and they came up with that concept for the cover, and I liked it. So I went. Mad Genius, I went to 99 Designs. I started a contest. I do like $1,200
Me
contest,
too.
close
Yeah, I love those.
contest to get the best designers. And I got that design done, and I took it to the publisher, and that was Random House. And with Random House, you don't bring your own. I think it was Random House, if I remember that one. They don't like you bringing your own. They're like, oh yeah, every author has their own little tight cover. We have 200 people in a department. We pay 50,000 a year to do that. But when I brought them the Mad Genius cover, they said, oh my God, that's brilliant. We'll use it.
Clean, simple, a manifesto for entrepreneurs. I think this world can get cleaned up pretty damn fast if everybody just thought like an entrepreneur. I really do think that's the phrase. Think like an entrepreneur. You could see wherever there's chaos, there's opportunity. Plus, every problem gets solved by an entrepreneur. I don't care who you are, what you do. It's an entrepreneur that solves it, not the government, not the politicians, entrepreneurs. So Randy, thanks so much, man. I appreciate your time and for sticking around, staying a little longer than usual. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to seeing the new books from all you guys and gals watching and listening right now.
Yeah. And he has a few great quotes. Go back and listen if you didn't see the whole thing. Get your damn book done, guys. And remember, $1 million book will lead to $1 million life. Right on.